This beautiful young girl is actively studying for her 8th civil service exam. But life always makes fun of those who try. Even though she holds a prestigious degree, Mi Jin is not hired by any company. While drunk, she accidentally fell into a bottomless well. The sky was filled with dark clouds accompanied by lightning. The clock suddenly turned back. The next day, Mi Jin woke up and was suddenly transformed into a 50-year-old woman. Even her parents don't recognize her daughter. Mi Jin can only return to her previous appearance before nightfall. So what happened? Please watch the movie now. It all started when Mi Jin was taking the civil service exam. Suddenly she met a strange broker. He gave her a contact card. He promised to find her a satisfactory job. Mi Jin didn't think much, but put it directly in her pocket. That night, the mother was praying for her daughter to find a job. Mi Jin was no longer young. Suddenly a cat jumped out, broke the bowl. Sometime later, Mi Jin was called for an interview at the company. Coincidentally, there was also a candidate with the same name as her. In order to differentiate between the two, the examiner gave her a nickname. The other candidate, younger one, is called Mi Jin, 20 years old, and because she is older, she is called Mi Jin, 30 years old. To show that she can meet the company's criteria, Mi Jin tries to show good qualities. However, the company wanted to look for young people, not an older person like her. Mi Jin sadly cycled home. A text message was sent informing her that she failed the interview. Mi Jin, not knowing how to face her parents, she was about to hide in her room when her mother called her back. Why did you hide it from her? Mi Jin was worried that she didn't pass the interview round and reached her mother's ears, but her mother was happy when the company announced that she was accepted. Mi Jin clearly knew in her heart that there was a mistake in the company, but because she didn't want her mother to be sad, she hid the truth to bypass her parents. Mi Jin applied for a temporary job at a film crew, but her dream still remained as a civil servant, so she made an appointment to meet the broker to talk. As soon as arrived at the cafe, Mi Jin suddenly bumped into a handsome prosecutor. He gently helped her up and entered the cafe. Because two tables sitting close to each other, Ji Young overheard the conversation. The broker seduced Mi Jin. If she paid him 5 million won, then he would introduce her to a job. Mi Jin immediately believed him and handed over the money along with her job application to him. The prosecutor was sure that this guy was a fraudster, so he intentionally bumped into this guy and dropped the phone of this person. After that, Ji Young borrowed the phone of this guy to call his partner. He asked someone to investigate the information of the owner of this phone. As soon as have the result that this was a junk SIM card, the prosecutor began to act. He walked up to the broker and poured all the coffee on this guy. As soon as this guy pulled out wallet, he quickly grabbed it. The prosecutor read the guy's identification information to his colleague. The broker immediately ran away in fear. Then he explained to Mi Jin that this was a scammer. She angrily chased after the bastard who cheated her money. The three of them chased each other through each street. Mi Jin used her intelligence to block the scammer's path. The scammer continued to flee, but he couldn't escape from prosecutor Ji Young. At this time, the police were also there to escort him to the station. Mi Jin got mad and demanded he return the money he took. The two then went to the police station to take statements. Mi Jin was surprised that Ji Young was so enthusiastic to help her. Even though caught the scammer, Mi Jin couldn't get the money back right away. The police need time to investigate that virtual account. Mi Jin is crazy and wants to kill the bastard who cheated her of money, which was money she borrowed from her mother. Meanwhile, the prosecutor returned home with the file in his hand. He was surprised when he saw Mi Jin's application form. It turned out that she had taken it by mistake while in the car when he contacted her to return the application file. Mi Jin thought he was a scammer, so she scolded him. After that, she even blocked his phone number. That night, Mi Jin sadly returned home. Suddenly, she saw a cat waiting for her. She kindly took some milk to feed the cat. Then, Mi Jin returned home. She didn't dare to tell her parents that she had been scammed. In that moment, the TV showed Mi Jin chasing the scammer in the morning. She quickly ran to turn off the TV before being discovered. To feed up the daughter of the mother has prepared premium beef, but she was in no mood to eat. When entered the room, she burst into tears when she saw the shoes her father gave her. Mi Jin was so depressed about this life, so she burned all her books for the past 8 years. She had worked hard studying for exams. Watching her 8 years of effort go down in flames made her heartbroken. The sky began to pour heavy rain. To forget the depth that Mi Jin secretly drank alcohol. At that moment, she met the cat again. Suddenly, the cat jumped into a deep well. Mi Jin wanted to save the cat, so she jumped down. A beam of light emitted. Mi Jin woke up and found herself in a familiar room. She walked out and sat between her parents watching a movie. Her father asked her to scratch his back. At this moment, her mother came back from the kitchen and shouted loudly. She was angry when her husband had an affair with an old woman. Mi Jin didn't understand what her parents were saying. They were scared and called the police. Mi Jin tried to explain, but her mother didn't believe her. Her mother even used a weapon to chase her out of the house. Mi Jin was afraid and ran away from here in fear. Suddenly, she saw herself through the mirror. What was happened with her face? Why did she look like a 50-year-old woman? Right after that, the police came to escort her to the station. Mi Jin tried to prove herself, but her parents didn't believe it. They thought their daughter had been captured by this woman. Everything was against her. Mi Jin finally accepted that she was getting old. she sadly left the police station. Even though she was aging, her body was still flexible. The sky began to turn dark. When the police found her, Mi-jin had returned to the beginning. Mi-jin returned home and saw her parents preparing things. They recounted what they encountered in the morning. Mi-jin returned to her room devastated. Why did she become so old? She hadn't even dated or had a stable job yet and was about to leave. A new day begins. When exposed to sunlight, her body begins to age. Her parents heard screaming, so they ran to ask. Mi-jin quickly locked the door. She begged her dad doesn't come in here. She remembered what happened last night. She saved a cat that fell into a well, but when she returned to the veterinary store, the vet said that the cat had disappeared. Mi-jin guessed that the cat was related to this strange incident. A new day began. Many fans gathered in front of the court. They all wanted to exonerate their idol. He was a singer who had committed many crimes. In order to punish this villain, the prosecutor asked for a heavy sentence for him. After the trial ended, a large number of journalists surrounded Ji-young. He is famous for being a good lawyer with a high winning rate. It is also because he is so talented that he becomes arrogant. The prosecutor was also used to having to deal with aggressive crowds. At the peak of career, Ji-young suddenly wanted to transfer to the local prosecutor's office. When his superiors asked why he didn't answer, Ji-young came here to investigate the disappearance case 20 years ago. On the contrary, with his success every day, for Mi-jin is like a nightmare. She has to theft of her mother's clothes because this old body wears didn't fit. Right at this time, her mother came back from the market. The mother was upset when her daughter still hadn't woken up, ignored her things. The daughter tried to hold the door, so the mother broke the lock. Mi-jin tried to hide under the blanket. After her parents left, she went to the hospital to cure this aging disease, but no one believed her. Finally, Mi-jin went to the fortune teller. She was afraid that an evil spirit was haunting her. The sky started to turn dark. Mi-jin returned to her youthful appearance. This scared the fortune teller and chased her away. Every day she felt bad. Suddenly, she saw a recruitment notice from the prosecutor's office. In particular, there was no age limit. Mi-jin thought this was the opportunity God had given her. The next day, she used her aunt's name Lim Sun to apply. Here the candidates were all elderly people. Mi-jin began to show her difference, from her clear pronunciation to her flexible body, not to mention her foreign language proficiency and errors. The employers were very satisfied with her performance. The recruitment results are finally out. Mi-jin has officially become an employee. She is happy to have an official job for the first time. That night, Mi-jin had a strange dream. When she was young, she often went to play with her aunt and the little cat. Suddenly, the sound of a cat meowing woke her up. Mi-jin walked out, following the sound of a cat meowing, it leading her to the attic of the house. Mi-jin was surprised to see the missing persons search application. Previously, her family had struggled to find Aunt Lim's son, but the police could not find her. Until now, no one knows where her aunt has gone. Mi-jin left the house early in the morning. She was afraid that her parents would discover that she had turned into an old woman. The alarm bell rang, and her body transformed into a 50-year-old woman. Mi-jin happily cycled to the prosecutor's office. Today was the first day she was hired to work here. Her superiors announced that Mi-jin was at the top of the selection of the prosecutor's office. Her first job was to clean the office. There will soon be a prosecutor moving in. Mi-jin excitedly got to work. She danced to the music and forgot there was someone standing outside. When she turned around, she was scared by the prosecutor. She quickly retreated behind the desk. The prosecutor saw this and quickly ran to help Mi-jin, but she broke the pot of congratulatory plants. Mi-jin was surprised to see an acquaintance again, but when she got to know her, Ji-young's role as a prosecutor scared her. Ji-young's move here surprised many people, especially his former assistant. Because of the huge workload, this man fled here. It's only been a year of peace, but Ji-young has come to disturb. After work, Ji-young went to look for a house to rent. According to the recommendation, he went to meet the landlord. Suddenly, the landlord asked him if he was afraid of ghosts, because now the landlord had a house that he could move into. Ji-young didn't believe in ghosts, so landlord took him to visit the house. Mi-jin's father, who was grilling meat, also came to listen. He told him there was once a person who escaped from life by self, but because he needed a place to stay, he agreed to sign the contract. At the same time, in upstairs, Mi-jin went to her best friend's house. She wanted to ask her best friend to teach her how to do makeup. At the same time, she also asked her best friend to find mysterious orange cat. Mi-jin was curious when someone moved into the haunted house. Her best friend was depressed when her father rented the house to someone else. The first night, Ji-young had a nightmare. He dreamed that there was a murder in a closed room. Suddenly, when he woke up, he heard the sound of water. Ji-young carefully checked, but found no water leak. He was about to go back to bed when the bathroom light suddenly turned off. He tried turning it on again, but the light didn't work. Before he could sit down, the light turned on. Ji-young was startled and remembered the rental owner's words. To calm himself down, he turned on meditation music to go to sleep. And a new day began again. Right from early morning, there were many fans surrounding the prosecutor's office. It turns out that the idol named Ko-won, who was tried by Ji-eung, decided to stay in hiding for 2 years, during which time he will come here to volunteer to regain his image. Mi-jin went out to sea and found that a stranger was going to attack Ko-won. She rushed to stop the extremist but was splashed with acid. Luckily, Ji-eung appeared just in time to save her. Her heart fluttered slightly. She was working productively when suddenly her mother called. Her mother said that a prosecutor named Ji-eung was here to see her. Mi-jin was worried and hurriedly cycled home while the mom was questioning why the two of them knew each other. But when she heard him introduce himself as a prosecutor, her attitude changed 180 degrees. At this moment, Mi-jin returned, but she was still looking like a woman 50-year-old. So Mi-jin ran away before the truth was revealed. After the sky turned dark, Mi-jin returned to the store. The prosecutor said he had not revealed that she had been scammed. This time he came here to return the file was taken by mistake. Mi-jin was surprised to see the job application, and she left his file at home. Mi-jin hurriedly returned home to look, but couldn't find it. Maybe she burned it along with a pile of books. Mi-jin gently said she had burned them all. Ji-eung was angry when important documents were burned. To take responsibility for her actions, she took him to a used bookstore. Ji-eung was bored looking at her wasting his time, but he still patiently waited for her. There were many old books that Mi-jin used to review. He curiously asked why she was studying for the exam. Mi-jin explaining that she was just trying to make her mother happy. After a long search, Mi-jin finally found her pile of books, along with a file that had not been burned. Mi-jin happily called Ji-eung, but he had disappeared. It turned out Ji-eung had just received a phone call that there had been a recent murder case. The detective wanted him to come find the culprit, look at the victim's body, and the method of crime. Ji-eung remembered the past. When he was young, his mother was also brutally murdered. After regaining his composure, he followed the trail to the place where the killer attacked. In front of him was a long canal, where the killer came out with cruel hands. He stepped step by step into the middle of the water. On the opposite side, Ji-eung saw a long blood stain. He carefully approached to check. The time from the time of committing the crime to being discovered was too short. Very maybe the killer was still hiding at the scene. He calmly took his phone to check around. Suddenly, a stranger ran away. Ji-eung hurriedly chased the killer. He ordered the police block the direction where the perpetrator fled. Suddenly, Mi-jin sent her a text message saying she would return home first. Ji-eung tried to call her back but couldn't. He was worried that she would be in danger, so he took the shortcut across the mountain and ran to find her. Mi-jin still did not know that danger was near. She calmly walked on the familiar small road. Mi-jin was curious about what was in his file, so she opened it. She was shocked to see inside it was a missing person case 20 years ago. At that moment, a car rushed towards Mi-jin. She carefully looked at the car in front, was about to go pick up the files when the car door opened. Mi-jin looked at the man in front of her in fear. At that moment, Ji-eung ran towards him and shouted loudly for her to avoid. The perpetrator saw the prosecutor coming and immediately ran away. Mi-jin was surprised when he came here. Ji-eung observed the tracks of the perpetrator's car, but every house here has a car like that. He asked her if she saw anything special. Mi-jin said she smelled scented wax. Over here, the parents were worried because their daughter had not returned yet. When they saw their daughter being brought home by her boyfriend, they were curious, asked her what she had done, but Mi-jin didn't say anything and went straight into the room. After escaping, the murderer returned to the evidence-destroying lair. It was an abandoned house in the mountains. He remembered with interest, in the woman blocked his path. His next target is Mi-jin. A new day begins. Ji-eung is actively investigating the previous case. However, his documents have been torn away by someone. While Mi-jin was suddenly rewarded for blocking the extremist, she has now become a social network idol to repay the benefactor. Mi-jin saved the life Ko-won for sending so much to her best friend's house. It turned out that Mi-jin had used her best friend's mother's identity to go to work. Every day she worked hard. Although the cleaning job was simple, it made her quite happy. At this moment, her best friend called. Mi-jin hadn't had a chance to tell her best friend's secret yet. She was afraid that her best friend would react like her parents, so Mi-jin hugged a pile of boxes to cover her best friend's eyes. The best friend just saw the 50-year-old woman was scared and chased her away. To prove that she is the real Mi-jin, she revealed her best friend's secret. Not to mention, she also knew her friend's room password. Her best friend still hasn't accepted this truth. Why did Mi-jin become an old woman? Mi-jin went crazy and said every time the sun rose, she would turn into an old woman, and when night fell, she would return to her old form. Her best friend still couldn't believe it. 100%. At this moment, the sun was about to set. Mi-jin told her best friend to film to the transformation process. When saw Mi-jin return to her old form, her best friend was very shocked. Then Mi-jin told her everything. She begged her best friend to keeping this a secret. The next day at the prosecutor's office, many crazy fans came to watch the idol work. Mi-jin looked bored at the idiots in front of her. After all, he is a famous star. Mi-jin called him aside to talk privately. She wanted to return all of yesterday's gifts, which surprised the star, but because the gift was too precious, she refused, giving her a cup of coffee. That's enough kicking. Ko-won felt surprised when someone rejected his sincerity. He tried to beg her to accept the gift, but was almost punched. Mi-jin finally gave in and agreed to let him invite her coffee every day, while the prosecutor was interrogating the star's acid attack suspect. But the suspect said he did it for revenge. The suspect started going crazy when the craving for drugs hit. The prosecutor was cold looking back at the video of the crime. The suspect became angry when he saw Mi-jin obstructing him. He threatened to execute Mi-jin after he escaping. The prosecutor calmly controlled him and sent him to prison. At the same time, at the prosecutor's office, Ko-won was scared when a masked person approached him, but it was just a normal person going to file documents. Ko-won quickly ran out to regain composure. He secretly took the medicine, but was accidentally seen by Mi-jin. He thought Mi-jin would comfort and encourage him, but she did not. Her life was not much better than his. At this time, Ji-young also returned to the room. He wants his subordinates to complete the assigned work, but the subordinate says working time is almost over. This makes Ji-young feel uncomfortable. The subordinates should have worked to be worthy of the money paid. He doesn't mind letting out bitter words towards subordinates. This hurt the subordinate. Immediately after the subordinate resigned, ignoring the criticism of superior, Ji-young asked him to find someone who could complete the job was assigned. At this time, Ji-young received a call. The police said they had found more victims' bodies. Through assessment, the perpetrator attacked while the victim was still alive. Ji-young recalled the case in the past. When his mother was the victim, he suspected the perpetrator was the same person. Suddenly in the distance, he saw a silver car. It was similar to the car the perpetrator drove. Ji-young quickly stepped on the accelerator to chase following that car. The perpetrator saw someone chasing, so sped away. Ji-young tried to remember license plate number when suddenly a truck blocked the road, causing him to lose sight of the perpetrator. That night, Ji-young was waiting at Mi-jin's house. She was surprised when the prosecutor came to look for her. He wanted to meet her to talk about the case. At this moment, Mi-jin's parents came out and pulled him into the house. They wanted to find out more about him. Mi-jin wanted to pull him out to talk privately, but her mother chased her into the room. The two of them could sit in and talk. Ji-young bewilderedly followed her inside. The two of them looked at each other shyly in the dark room. Mi-jin was embarrassed, hurriedly cleaned up the room. After everything was fine, Ji-young started to take out photos that the police had taken. However, she didn't remember what the car looked like anymore. Mi-jin only clearly remembered the scent on the car. The next day, the superiors made a decision to appoint personnel. Mi-jin completed everything excellently, so she was promoted. Now she is Ji-young's new assistant. He was surprised when his boss recruited a cleaner to be an assistant. That night, Mi-jin happily informed her best friend. Being a civil servant was Mi-jin's lifelong dream. Looking at Mi-jin's unusual attitude, her best friend asked her if she loved the prosecutor. Mi-jin shyly denied it. On the other hand, Ji-young was very upset when his boss gave him a 50-year-old assistant, but this was also because others could not stand his strict personality. To challenge this new employee, Ji-young assigned her the job of arranging documents. He requested that everything be completed before noon, something that even young people could not do. Mi-jin, without a single complaint, immediately got to work. Her typing speed has been trained through part-time work before. Seeing the 50-year-old aunt being able to handle a pile of documents shocked everyone. Even Ji-young couldn't believe the assistant could finish it on time. Not to mention, it was flawless. Ji-young still hadn't given up on the idea of getting rid of this new assistant, so he assigned her to arrange the invoices. Mi-jin presented her way of working. First, she will classify the invoices, then use functions to search and create tables. Ji-young is shocked by her vast amount of knowledge, from invoices to financial reports. Mi-jin can defeat it with a very easily way. He had no reason to chase Mi-jin anymore. At this moment, the clock rang. Mi-jin hurriedly returned home before transforming, but Ji-young made things difficult for her. They wanted her to go buy some food for the night, along with strict requirements for food. Mi-jin quickly cycled to buy food. While Ji-young and his colleagues were gloating with their victory, Mi-jin will never be able to buy enough of those things. Suddenly, the door opened. Mi-jin quickly gave her food and ran away. On the way home, she was seen by Ko-won. He drove a supercar to chase Mi-jin but was completely ignored. At the turn, Ko-won was surprised when he did not see the old woman, but only a young girl cycling back home. Mi-jin returned home in a happy mood. Her dream of becoming a civil servant had come true. The next day, Ji-young gave her an outside mission. He needed her to go to the mountain to send the summons. However, he asked her to complete it before noon. Mi-jin was a bit dissatisfied, but still obedient going to work. Standing at the foot of the mountain made her a bit overwhelmed. Previously, Mi-jin had had time to work part-time at the climbing center, so she climbed up to finish her work. Right when the clock struck 12 p.m., Mi-jin returned to the office. She even took pictures as evidence. This made Ji-young feel shocked. Is there anything she can't do? In the afternoon, the prosecutor went to the police station to get forensic results. The police said the victim had been injected with a drug by the perpetrator. This reminded him of his mother's old case. However, the inspector in charge of that case had retired, so he asked someone to help him find the detective's address to ask more questions. On the way back home, the prosecutor was curious as to why the killer came back. What did the murderer from 20 years ago want to find here. Ji-young just got out of the car meeting his junior again. The junior has long lusted after Ji-young. He saw in the junior's hand a recent case. Ji-young wanted to change, but the junior refused. This is a big case that could helping the juniors get promoted. Mi-jin was standing and eavesdropping on the story when she was discovered by the juniors. The juniors warned her to watch out for Ji-young. He was much worse than he looked. Suddenly, Ji-young called, making her startle. He asked her to meet at a coffee shop tonight. Being asked to meet by the prosecutor made Mi-jin's mind reel. Why did he ask to meet her? That night, after finishing everything at the company, Mi-jin had ran to the coffee shop to meet the prosecutor. Suddenly, he took out a gift bag. Inside were all necessary self-defense items. He wanted Mi-jin to carry it with her. Now she is an important witness of the case. This made Mi-jin feel pressured. After finishing talking, Ji-young drove her home. He also carefully saved his number on her phone. This made Mi-jin feel a vibration. The next day, the assistant had investigated the drug supply in this area. Ji-young was about to go investigate when Mi-jin appeared. She asked everyone to let her go with. Mi-jin had lived in this area since childhood, so she knows every nook and cranny here. The first place is to check the nightclub. To make this 50-year-old face suitable for the nightclub, Mi-jin asked her best friend to do her makeup. After the makeup was done, she and her assistant were able to assign the task of blending in inside, and Ji-young will be outside to respond if there is any emergency. There are only 3 minutes left until sunset. At this time, the security guards go to check on customers. They paid attention to Mi-jin. Old women are not allowed here. Mi-jin tried to explain that she was born in 1996, but the boss asked someone to throw her out. The prosecutor saw what was going on and tried to help, but it was too late. Mi-jin transformed into a youthful appearance. She angrily scolded juniors for being careless. In order to make amends with customer, Mi-jin was specially invited into the shop. Ji-young ordered them to report every 10 minutes to him to attract the attention of the rich people. Mi-jin danced her heart out on stage. Right after that, a young man caught sight of her. He asked his juniors to take Mi-jin to the VIP room. Ji-young was surprised when she sneaked into the private room. Inside were all noble men. Mi-jin tried to looking for evidence, made the rich man uncomfortable. Suddenly, he grabbed her wallet, and there was a hidden camera inside to help with the investigation. Mi-jin was scared when she was exposed. It's been 10 minutes, and she still hasn't reported it. Ji-young was worried about his assistant's safety, so he rushed into the bar. The juniors tried to stop him but were beaten to a pulp. They hit him with bottles, making Ji-young mad. Now he has had enough, the reason to attack them. All the bodyguards were punched. While searching every room, he suddenly heard a scream. Ji-young rushed to help. The staff immediately ran in to announce the arrival of the police. The scared guys quickly grabbed the drugs and ran away. Mi-jin took advantage of this moment to escape. By chance, she saw a room full of drugs. Inside, they was packing all the money into a suitcase. Suddenly, the door opened, making her scared. The boss discovered that someone was secretly filming. Mi-jin immediately ran away from the boss. As soon as she was caught, the screams reached Ji-young's place. He immediately ran to check. Inside, Mi-jin was fighting against the thug. As soon as saw this guy appear in front of, he kicked the thug away. The prosecution was surprised that Mi-jin was here. The thug was scared when he encountered a wild animal. He quickly ran away. Mi-jin explained that she came here to play. Right when he called the 50-year-old aunt, Mi-jin panicked. She turned off the bell and texted the prosecutor. After receiving the news that the aunt had gone home first, Ji-young said he would take her home. The two entered the elevator. Inside there was a drunkard aiming at Mi-jin. This guy kept coming closer to bother her. Ji-young saw that, so he pulled her closer. Looking at her decisive attitude when dealing with the drunk guy made him smile. The two of them were later sent off by the juniors to the gate. Now they know that the prosecutor's office is involved in the investigation. Surely the traitors will be alert. On the way back, Ji-young kindly asked Mi-jin why she didn't use self-defense that he gave. Mi-jin was happy to see that the prosecutor cared about her, but only a few minutes before she discovered his contacts, the prosecutor saved her name as a document. This made her feel uncomfortable. While drive suddenly had an animal running across the road, causing Ji-young to steer quickly. The car got stuck in the mud and couldn't get out. Mi-jin's parents happened to pass by. They took the two of them home to take a shower, and the car was left alone. Ji-young was depressed about having to bathe in a stranger's house, but when he took the clothes he took, mistaking the mother's clothes, looking at his appearance in housewife clothes. Mi-jin couldn't hide her smile. Before leaving, the mother gave him a lot of food. Mi-jin ran after him to see him off. She wanted to thank him for not telling the truth to her parents. Ji-young returned home with a pile of food in his hand. It had been a long time since he had eaten at home. Ji-young carefully placed the food on the refrigerator. A new day started again. Mi-jin dressed as an old woman, pretending to have a heart attack. Everyone in the room was worried about her health. Mi-jin said she took pictures of drug dealers. Ji-young was about to ask more specifically why she sneaked into the VIP room and was pulled out by the assistant. He advised Ji-young to stop trying to fire Mi-jin. Because of him, she had a heart attack. Right when they were about to return the room, he discovered an elderly person cleaning here. Ji-young suspiciously walked over to the old man to check. Suddenly his mind remembered the camera. Ji-young returned to his room to review the video of the murderer acid attack. Why did he ignore the secret crime location? Was his target Ko-won? To clarify this matter, Ji-young went to the prison to interrogate him. Is this person still pretending to be crazy and didn't know anything? After the prosecutor left, the prisoner called the real mastermind. The prosecutor seemed to know that someone was behind the orders. Meanwhile, Mi-jin was resting outside when suddenly Ko-won approached to offer her coffee. He wanted to ask her for advice about this life. Mi-jin felt sorry when everyone was watching Ko-won. He must have had a hard time. For the first time, Ko-won felt like someone understood him so much. Mi-jin stood up to go back to work and accidentally poured cup of coffee. Ko-won helped her wipe her wet feet. He accidentally saw her heart-shaped childhood scar. That night, Ji-young couldn't sleep. He always dreamed about his past. His mother is a single mother. Every day he left alone in a cramped room. Because he can't sleep, he turned the case over and want to find out who killed his mother. On the map, there are many people missing. They all disappeared at the same time, 20 years ago, coinciding with the time his mother was brutally murdered. The sun had not yet risen. Ji-young went to work. A while later, Ji-young hurried even more, ran to the prison. The acid attack suspect passed away from drug shock. Ji-young wanted to see the body himself. He also checked the prisoner's call list, but they couldn't call. Maybe they knew that the suspect was dead. Then Ji-young went to question the doctor and said that he was uncomfortable about being investigated by the prosecutor. As soon as Ji-young left, a guard secretly called the boss to report. This man was also the suspect, the person who swapped the doctor's medicine. As soon as the medicine was injected into body, his body began to convulse and die. Ji-young was upset and returned to the prosecutor's office. Suddenly, Ko-won blocked the way and said he needed to talk. Ji-young was surprised when the news that the acid attack perpetrator had died was leaked. Ko-won angrily asked if he died because of me. Ji-young returned to the room with an unpleasant attitude, who revealed that the perpetrator died with the victim. Mi-jin was scared and said she told him she just wanted Ko-won to feel more assured. Ji-young blamed her for not thinking about the victim's feelings. Mi-jin sadly left. Even though she knew she had done something wrong, she was still a little sad. Mi-jin also knew that he wanted to kick her out of here, but she tried to be patient. That night, Mi-jin drank a lot to forget her sadness. She went to her best friend's house to sleep for a night. Strangely, she unable to open the door. Mi-jin did not know that she had come to the wrong house. The loud noise outside made Ji-young uncomfortable. When he opened the door to check, he was shocked to see Mi-jin lying in front of his door. Before he could ask why she was here, Mi-jin ran into the house. The door suddenly slammed shut. Ji-young was annoyed when Mi-jin broke the door lock. Now they couldn't get out. Ji-young, helpless, had to take care of this drunk girl. While drunk, Mi-jin did so many crazy things that he couldn't speak. When Mi-jin woke up, it was almost dawn. She was scared to find herself in a strange room. In front of her was prosecutor Ji-young. He explained that this was his house. Only now did Mi-jin know that she went to the wrong house. She quickly ran away, but the door was damaged by her last night, so now they have to wait for the repairman to come and fix it. Mi-jin was worried that he would discover the truth, so she ran out to the balcony. At this moment, the sunlight shone on Mi-jin, scared and turned towards the prosecutor. Before he could react, Mi-jin climbed off the balcony. She tried to climb up to her friend's house above, but was stopped by Ji-young. Mi-jin promptly climbed up to her friend's house before her body was transformed. Her friend suddenly saw the ant standing on the balcony. After waking up, Mi-jin told her best friend everything that happened last night. Her best friend was angry when she did something like that. Mi-jin wanted to stay here for the time being. At that moment, the prosecutor went up to her friend's house. Mi-jin was scared and covered her face to meet the prosecutor. As soon as she bent down to pick up her bag, Ji-young appeared from behind the door. He was surprised to see his 50-year-old aunt appear here. The best friend rushed out and said she was her mother, and Mi-jin was busy going to the bathroom. Her best friend laughed gloatingly, as their relationship was quite good. A new work day started. Ji-young's junior was in charge of the murder case. The junior ordered the staff to search for the silver car. When the junior learned that Ji-young had interfered in the case, so was very angry and rushed to Ji-young's room to questionnaire. The assistant said juniors should be more polite to seniors. At this moment, Ji-young returned to the room. Before he could explain, the junior left. The sky was pouring heavy rain. Mi-jin quickly ran out to get the car to go home. Suddenly, Ji-young came forward to cover her with an umbrella. He wanted to apologize to Mi-jin for what happened. This time, he wanted her cooperate with him in cases. Mi-jin happily took his hand. Ji-young even enthusiastically drove her home. This made Mi-jin extremely worried. The time for her body to change was coming. She shouted and told him to let her down on the side of the road. As soon as she got out of the car, she ran all the way to the meeting point. Before that, her best friend had told her that someone had found a cat. However, this cat was not the cat she was looking for. The young men began to do evil things. If want peace, leave the money and leave. Mi-jin is determined not to give the money to them. At this moment, Ji-young suddenly appears and pushes these people back. Ji-young threatened that he would sue them in court. Suddenly one guy rushed in to attack him. Ji-young gently locked the hand of this hot-tempered kid. The rest got angry and rushed in to save their friend, but they were not his opponents. Ji-young beat them once and let them go. Afterwards, both of them went to the animal rescue center. Mi-jin wanted to give this strange cat to the vet to take care of. On the way home, Ji-young listened intently to her story. Her aunt used to have a few cats. Every day she went out to feed the stray cats. Mi-jin also said that cats will repay the favor. The next day at the prosecutor's office, the kids from last night, Ji-young was summoned to do a test. They all tested negative for drugs. Ji-young coldly said he would send them to a reformatory. If they want to escape from sin, obediently reveal the place where they got the drug sticker. But the language barrier between the two generations made Ji-young unable to understand what they were saying. Mi-jin translated for him to understand. This boy wanted to level up in the game, so he made an appointment to meet his playmates outside. Unfortunately, this friend wanted to take money from him. When he protested, she called her boyfriend. This guy was the one who regularly supplied drugs to the black box. In order to settle this case peacefully, this guy gave the goods to this boy. Used it. The boys were surprised when an ant could understand what they were saying. Then Ji-young ordered someone to catch the delivery guy come here. That night, Ji-young returned home. Suddenly he was blocked by the landlord. He now knew Ji-young's status as a prosecutor. So the landlord told the truth that someone had died in the house he rented. But Ji-young couldn't move out right away. Today was the weekend, so he asked Mi-jin to go out. However, she was currently taking a shower with her best friend, while Mi-jin escaped to change clothes. Her best friend arranged for the prosecutor to come here to find Mi-jin, and then the two of them walking together at night. Ji-young curiously asked her if she didn't remember what happened that night, but Mi-jin didn't want to remember that embarrassing night. In a drunken state, she called the prosecutor and expressed her feelings through song. Ji-young feeling a bit disappointed when she didn't remember. That night, he sat thoughtfully on the chair listening to that song over and over again. The assistant called. Suddenly assistant called, hid when he heard that the students were being investigated. To catch this guy, they needed to find his girlfriend. The next day, the two of them sincerely asked Mi-jin for help. She was the only one in the room, plays games. The plan is for Mi-jin to find this girlfriend, make an appointment to meet her. As long as Mi-jin can provoke her, her boyfriend will appear. For a whole week, Mi-jin played games until late at night. She was bored when the news came. The message came. The prey contacted her to meet on Thursday afternoon. She was happy because she was about to catch the suspect when this girl changed the appointment time. This girl wanted to change the appointment to the evening. This made Mi-jin worried. Having put in so much effort, she couldn't let her prey slip away. However, to make sure the prey didn't run away, Ji-young would be the one to meet this girl directly. As soon as she entered the shop, she fell in love at first sight with the prosecutor. Watching her approach him made Mi-jin uncomfortable. In order for the plan to be completed, Ji-young had to endure her. When Ji-young went to the toilet, she secretly put medicine into Ji-young's beer cup. Mi-jin saw everything outside. She hurriedly called Ji-young, but this girl took her phone, and when she was about to run in to intervene, her body changed again. Mi-jin returned to her old appearance and rushed in. She tried to signal Ji-young, but he didn't understand. Right when Ji-young was about to drink a beer, she threw a chicken leg to stop him. At this moment, Mi-jin rushed forward and poured out the entire beer. She shouted loudly why he betrayed her like that. Before he could explain, Mi-jin hugged him to mark her sovereignty. This girl boldly said, "I didn't care." The two fought each other, making Ji-young uncomfortable. Suddenly a stranger rushed in the door. He was the boyfriend selling illegal goods. He got mad when there was someone dared to flirt with his girlfriend. But when Ji-young turned around, he realized that this was the prosecutor who beat him the day before. So the salesman quickly ran away from the scene. Ji-young immediately chased after him. The salesman fought back fiercely but was beaten to a pulp by Ji-young. He obediently lay down on the ground and waited for the escort car to arrive. On this side, Mi-jin and assistant caught the girlfriend. Ji-young curiously asked Mi-jin what she was doing here. Why are she interfering in this matter? Mi-jin explained that she saw this girl putting drugs in his beer. That's why she did those weird things. Ji-young was curious about her current job, but Mi-jin couldn't answer that she was his assistant. She was sadly waiting for the bus. She was about to get on the bus when she changed her mind. Mi-jin wanted to go for a walk alone, which made Ji-young curious. He gently followed behind her without knowing it. Mi-jin told everything herself. She had a reason for not telling him the truth. She was also angry that he was the prosecutor, but was so slow to understand. While angry, Mi-jin kicked a can of water on the street. Accidentally, the can fell on a drunk man. This man wanted to go and make trouble, but was stopped by Ji-young. He bowed his head and apologized to the man. Right when this man was angry, he showed the business card. The drunk man was scared when the other person was a prosecutor. This man obediently left without causing any trouble for the two of them. Mi-jin was surprised when he appeared here. Could it be that he had heard everything? Ji-young doesn't blame her for lying to him. He will wait until Mi-jin voluntarily tells everything. The next day, Mi-jin went to work with an awkward expression. Suddenly, the assistant asked for the relationship between Ji-young and the girl last night. This made Mi-jin very shy, but the prosecutor still kept his mouth shut and didn't say much. The delivery guy last night came to Ji-young's office. Ji-young said he would be convicted of a serious crime for selling drugs to students. Now I will give you a chance if you reveal the source of the goods. I will release your girlfriend. The delivery guy obediently declared that he only received goods to deliver to customers. They mainly gathered in the black box VIP room. Ji-young knew that if the black box heard that the delivery was arrested, they would quickly erase traces of the drug warehouse. So he installed someone to film the transporting goods. They said they would bury it in the mountains. At the same time, Ko-won was asking the manager to investigate Mi-jin's identity. He was surprised that this woman did not have identification papers, and even more so, she did not have phone number and living with other people. This made Ko-won feel suspicious. He watched the video of her cycling over and over again, but could not find anything suspicious. The only strange thing was that the aunt who went missing 20 years ago suddenly appeared. So after work he followed Mi-jin. He saw her lock the car and go into a small store. Ko-won curiously went in to check inside. At this time it was already dark. He was surprised to see that the bag was similar to that of the 50-year-old aunt, but the one was sitting in front of the screen was a young girl. He deliberately chose the machine next to her. Mi-jin still hadn't discovered the suspect. It wasn't until she looked back that she realized she took the wrong bull. When she bent down to pick up Ko-won discovered the scar on her feet. He remembered that the old woman also had that scar, not to mention the key with a cat image and the video of this girl riding a bicycle. Before Mi-jin turned back, Ko-won had disappeared. He went outside to wait to see who would take the bike. As soon as Mi-jin rode her bike home, she was scared when she discovered someone was following her. She quickly sped up but couldn't get rid of a stalker, so she called Ji-young, asked him to come to the rescue. The car quickly left when discovered. The next day, the whole prosecutor's office was invited by the boss to eat. However, Ji-young did not like to participate in these parties. The Association of the Elderly also attended. Mi-jin was surprised that Ko-won took such good care of her. After eating and drinking, the whole group went for a karaoke to increase the atmosphere of the party. The director gave prizes to those with points highest. Suddenly, Mi-jin came from below to the stage. She started performing, making the whole auditorium excited. While everyone was having fun, Ji-young came to visit the former policeman. This man was used to be in charge of his mother's case. As soon as he saw Ji-young's face, he felt disgusted. He went to see Ji-young's mother many times, but the mother always chased him back. The police knew what the mother had seen something, however she refused to confess. As soon as Ji-young left, the assistant texted and found the silver car. It belonged to Mr. Beek. He used to be the director of a large hospital in the area. He is currently working as a volunteer at the public prosecutor's office. That was the old man that Ji-young once met. While driving home, he suddenly received a text message. Mi-jin, in a drunken state, called him. At that moment, a hand appeared, pulled her out of the crowd. Ko-won said he knew Mi-jin's secret. She was scared when he found out about it. Mi-jin no longer had the strength, so immediately faint in his arms. The time for her body to transform has come. At this moment, Ji-young arrived. He was dumbfounded when he saw Mi-jin in the hands of another man. Ji-young calmly approached the car. He asked Ko-won what was doing. Immediately after, he called an ambulance to take her to the hospital. Ji-young was upset and asked why she fainted. Ko-won, remembering that it was just an accident, he put a sedative in a glass of water, and Mi-jin accidentally drank that glass, causing her to faint. After listening to the doctor's explanation, Ji-young guessed everything and came forward, warned Ko-won not to affect her. At this moment, Mi-jin also woke up. She wanted to quickly return home. As soon as Ko-won left, she chased after him to talk. She wanted him to explain why he knew that. Ko-won admitted he had been following her. That night, he parked the car in front of Mi-jin's house gate all night. As soon as the first sunlight shone on Mi-jin's body, she transformed into a 50-year-old aunt. Ko-won couldn't believe his eyes anymore. This was absurd. Now the truth had been revealed, but he promised to keep her secret. At that moment, Mi-jin's close friend came. Ko-won silently watched her leave. Her best friend asked her what was wrong. Mi-jin said she felt tired. Could it be that she was about to leave? A new day began again. Mi-jin, suddenly seeing the girl standing with a sign in front of the prosecutor's office, looking at the girl's appearance, made Mi-jin feel pity for her. Suddenly she was blocked by Ko-won. Mi-jin was scared and ran away, but was catched by him. He slowly approached Mi-jin. She backed away in fear. He told her to sell the director's bonus coupon to him. He just offered 5 million and she sold it to him. After getting the bonus coupon in hand, Ko-won went to see the director. He wanted to become the director's secretary. He really wanted to refuse, but this voucher was created by him, so he had to meet Ko-won's request. At the same time, the assistant went to investigate around the hospital. Director Baek was a good person, but after his wife passed away, the director neglected his work. Behind his clean record, he was a demon. He was the boss who sent the prisoner back to meet the king of the hell. The time the hospital director joined the prosecutor's office was also the time the crippled old man disappeared. The woman who often stood in front of the prosecutor's gate was his daughter. Mi-jin approached her to ask about her. She sadly said she had to find find her father. He had mysteriously disappeared. Mi Jin said, "I would help you find your father." So she asked the elderly people working here, but no one knew where the old man was. Among the elderly people here was a former police officer. He said he used to investigate disappearances in this area. The common point is that the victims all spent a lot of money before disappearing. On her way back, Mi Jin suddenly remembered something. The hospital director once asked her about the crippled old man. That night, Mi Jin lay down and asked her mother, did the aunt spend a lot of money on the card when she disappeared? The mother said she used to work in a bank, so she was very frugal when spending. The next day, the old policeman visited the ex-inspector. He said the story of the crippled man's sudden disappearance. The inspector remembered that fateful night. Ji-young's mother called to report the crime. She wanted to tell the inspector everything she saw, but his superiors wanted him to pick up boss, so the person who came to see Ji-young's mother was someone else. As soon as saw the man in black appear, Ji-young's mother was very scared. When his teammates arrived at the place where the mother had disappeared, he discovered bloodstains at the public phone booth. To this day, that case still makes him feeling regretful. At the same time, Ji-young went to meet the hospital director. He was surprised when Ji-young investigated his identity. This time, Ji-young came here to warn this director. The assistant also investigated some useful information. There were rumors that it was Director Baek who killed his wife. Some said it was his wife who siphoned all his money. After the murder, the house was sold. This place happened to be the house Ji-young was renting. That night, Ji-young sat and looked at the documents of people who disappeared 20 years ago, including Aunt Mi Jin's name. To prevent the prosecution from discovering her fake identity, Mi Jin came to his house to seduce him. She brought a lot of food here. Ji-young tried to refuse, but Mi Jin still went inside. Ji-young didn't understand. Look at her, appear here. The purpose was to get him drunk and steal documents. Mi Jin acted pitiful to trick him into drinking. Her eyes always stared at the investigation documents, but she miscalculated. Ji-young's alcohol tolerance was better than her. Even though Mi Jin drank a lot of hangover medicine before coming here, she still couldn't defeat him. Suddenly, Ji-young said he really liked her. This made Mi Jin a bit embarrassed. Ji-young said her family treated him very well. It had been a long time since he felt love from someone else. To repay, Ji-young gave her parents a gift. Mi Jin tried to hold his hand, but she didn't have enough courage. It's too late now. Mi Jin wanted to help clean up, but broke the plate. While he wasn't paying attention, she hid the file. However, the name on the file was not her aunt's name. She quickly returned it to its original position. Then Ji-young attentively took care of her wound. This touched her. She suddenly stood up and slowly gave him the first kiss. However, Ji-young promptly covered the mouth with hand. Mi Jin was embarrassed and quickly left. Ji-young tried to explain that he thought she was going to headbutt him. This disastrous misunderstanding made Mi Jin want to hide in a hole. When she returned to her best friend's house, this friend laughed like crazy when the prosecutor stopped Mi Jin. Whenever got drunk, Mi Jin would cause trouble. The two then went to the convenience store to buy things. Accident at this time, Ji-young was also here. Out of habit, he suddenly hid from them. He tried to find a way back, but was accidentally hit in the face by a can of water. He endured the pain and tried to find a way to escape from here, but suddenly ran into Mi Jin. At this moment, her best friend ran over. Looking at the awkward scene before made her best friend stop laughing. Mi Jin saw him buying a lot of alcohol. Ji-young explained that whenever he was upset about something, he would drink alcohol. Mi Jin thought he must hate her very much. The atmosphere started to become heavy when her best friend ran out. They temporarily broke up and left first, returning to Ji-young's room to start investigating this case. The victims all lost body parts. The main similarity is that a banned substance was discovered. The time between the crime and the discovery was very short. The perpetrator must have hidden the body nearby. Ji-young looked carefully at the map. The most suitable place to hide was the water reservoir. He immediately called the police to confirm. This lake was very deep, so divers could not detect anything. The next day, Mi Jin was embarrassed to go to work. The assistant saw that the two of them seemed awkward. Ji-young said there was nothing wrong with him making Mi Jin angry. She flatly refused the requests he made. Her irritable attitude scared everyone. Ji-young felt that the aunt always avoided him in the evening. Even when at the office, Ko-won always followed Mi Jin. Seeing Ko-won thoughtfully serving food for Mi Jin made the assistant choking. Ko-won happily returned to the office when suddenly, something happened. A letter was sent. He was curious and opened the door to see who sent it. But there was not a single person outside. The letter implied that there was an elderly intern who lied about identity. He was worried when there was people knew Mi Jin's secret. At the same time, Ji-young was investigating around the lake, which was a large lake behind the mountain, so he asked the police to open a new search. search, which caused his superiors felt uncomfortable. This murder case was not under Ji-young's jurisdiction. The superiors ordered him to be banned from investigating that case. That night, Mi-jin had a dinner date with her best friend. While standing in line, she accidental the assistant appeared. He invited her to sit and eat with them. Mi-jin was about to flee when she came across the prosecutor. When her best friend arrived, this friend did not expect this to happen. The atmosphere began to be awkward, especially the couple Mi-jin and the prosecutor, like adding fuel to the fire. The assistant sitting next to asked Mi-jin if she liked Ko-won. Ji-young was upset when she said she liked him. Seeing Ji-young getting jealous made the best friend laugh. The whole guild then drank very drunk. In the car, Ji-young asked why she was avoiding him. Mi-jin admitted she had lost control. Ji-young was about to explain about the kiss. The driver arrived. They had to take their friend back to the room. The next day, the police had people dive to the bottom of the lake, just as Ji-young thought. They found a body at the bottom of the lake. At this moment, the victim's family came running. She painfully called out to her father, who was lying under the sheet. Looking at the girl made Ji-young remember his childhood past. On the day her mother passed away, Ji-young also sat and cried alone. The discovery of a body in the lake attracted the press. They gathered in large numbers in front of the police station. Everyone thought that the police were irresponsible. The hospital director also heard this news. He smiled when he saw the newspaper. Because Mi-jin wanted to help the girl, she talked to the elderly association. They all agreed to help, especially the hospital director. He said he would support the girl if needed. Mi-jin chased after him to talk when he suddenly saw a silver car. She quickly ran to the prosecutor's office to make a complaint. The assistant reassured her and said he was a suspect. Mi-jin panicked and wanted to find evidence. She afraid that someone will be killed. Now, Ji-young is at the forensic hospital waiting for the autopsy results. The cause of death is drowning. It seems the victim tried to run away from the perpetrator but slipped and fell into the lake. They also found anesthetics in the victim's body, proving that the perpetrator was a person proficient in using drugs. All evidence pointed to the hospital director. Ji-young went to the superior's room to ask for arrest instructions. However, the superior rejected all of his arguments, which made Ji-young angry. In order to publicly investigate the hospital, Mi-jin pretended to be a patient. The three of them successfully broke into the hospital. Then Ji-young and assistants split up to look for evidence. The fact that Mi-jin was at the hospital reached the director's ears. He asked the doctor to keep her. As soon as the director arrived at the place where Mi-jin had escaped, he ordered the subordinates to call security. Meanwhile, Mi-jin broke into the director's room. She tried to search for documents inside. At this moment, the director returned. Mi-jin hurriedly put the documents away and hid in a corner. The director carefully searched each room one by one. As soon as he arrived in front of the door where Mi-jin was hiding, the nurse rushed in and said they had Mi-jin's test results. He was surprised when she has blood type O+. It's completely different from her aunt. The doctor is scared and doesn't understand what's going on. Who is this person named Lim's son really? At the same time, the assistant followed the plan and went to the medicine room. He was careful to avoid being discovered by others, but to enter the medicine room, he had to have an employee card. The assistant waited for someone to open the door and sneaked in. He started check each medicine shelf one by one, but couldn't find anything suspicious. At this moment, the door suddenly opened. The assistant quickly ran into a corner and discovered a pile of medicine he needed. A new problem began to arise. The assistant had no way to get out. Luckily, he met Mi-jin. The assistant asked teammates to help him get out. Mi-jin started attacking the nurse. After getting the access card, she freed the assistant from the medicine room. The two quickly ran away before being caught by the security guard. Ji-young was waiting for them outside. They had collected some evidence. But what made Mi-jin pay attention to what the hospital director said? Why did he need to test her blood? Could it be that he was related to her aunt's disappearance? The director, after discovering that they broke in, he took a leave of absence from the office. This made Mi-jin feel worried. Mi-jin couldn't concentrate on work all day. Her mind was like someone in the clouds. Realizing that something was wrong with Mi-jin, Ko-won came encouraging her. Mi-jin said that last night she stayed up all night looking for a lost cat. Ko-won immediately took out his phone and posted to find the cat to help her. Very soon, hundreds of comments came in. Even Mi-jin was also very surprised when someone found the cat. Then Mi-jin went with him to the meeting place, but she forbade him to show his face outside. She didn't want Ko-won to get involved in rumors with her. But when she got there, the person she was meeting was a woman. She came here to meet Ko-won, not to find a cat. This made Mi-jin feel uncomfortable. So this woman also gave money to Mi-jin and then sent her home. The whole thing was witnessed by Ko-won. Even though she was looked down upon by the other person, Mi-jin still bowed her head to thank the other person for being a fan of Ko-won. This action of her touched Ko-won. That night on the way back home, the best friend accidentally met Ji-young. The best friend invited him to come over for a drink. Although at first he refused, when he heard something about Mi-jin, he changed his mind and went up to sit with the best friend. Was about to talk about Mi-jin when suddenly she called. She asked if her best friend wanted anything to eat, but when her best friend turned on the speaker, a male voice next to her entered. Her best friend started to wonder who she was going with, but when heard Mi Jin say she wouldn't be home tonight, causing the prosecutor to choke on her water, her best friend happily teased the prosecutor. Ji-young was embarrassed and immediately changed the subject. All that night he kept tossing and turning, unable to sleep. He worriedly called to ask where Mi Jin was, but Ko-won answered the phone. The familiar voice surprised Ji-young. Ji-young asked him to hand over the phone for Mi Jin but was rejected. Ko-won immediately hung up, making Ji-young uncomfortable. After that, he turned to alcohol to relieve his sadness. The next day they found a location where the thugs hid the drugs. To more clearly, Ji-young asked to bring the delivery guy to confirm. If he agrees to cooperate, the penalty will be reduced. The delivery guy said, "I don't know," until Ji-young threatened to imprison him for 10 years. He started to confess. They often buried drugs under the corner of a tree next to a temporary house, but the way up the mountain was very difficult. They needed Mi Jin's help. She happily said she had climbed to the top of the mountain to complete the mission. The assistant was overwhelmed by the height, so he retreated. While they were arguing about who was climbing, Mi Jin Mountain was already halfway up. Ji-young used all his strength to climb the mountain, but Mi Jin didn't let him rest for a minute. Seeing Ji-young rolling on the ground made her disappointed. When they were sitting to rest, suddenly a man appeared. He was the geologist of this area. Following the delivery man's instructions, they went to the house on the hill. Ji-young looked dejectedly at the large yard in front of his eyes. They had to split up and dig little by little. After a long time of searching, Mi Jin dug up the pile of drugs they hid. As the sun was about to set, Mi Jin decided to zip down the mountain first, and Ji-young will carry the medicine down following the pathway. The assistant handed it over to the Forensic Institute for testing. While waiting for the results, he accidentally saw Ko-won's interview. The assistant was angry when Ko-won hinted that the 50-year-old aunt was his ideal model. Ji-young curiously approached to check. He was surprised to see Ko-won's post looking for a cat. At this moment, Ko-won went to call Mi Jin out. He bought a lot of supplements for middle age. To prevent this improper relationship, the assistant called Ko-won aside to talk privately. He was surprised when the assistant knew that he liked the 50-year-old aunt. He tried to signal the assistant to stop talking, but failed. He continued to drink one bottle after another. In the end, he collapsed on the table. Ko-won had to take care of him. The news that the assistant went drinking with Ko-won was on the front page. Ji-young was surprised to see all his acquaintances. Immediately afterward, Ji-young went to the bar to picking up his assistant. In the car, Ko-won asked about his relationship with Mi Jin. He didn't want to be the third person. Ji-young didn't answer, but started to speed up. When he got home, he calmly thought about Ko-won's question. What exactly did he want? As soon as he called Mi Jin, she turned off the phone and went to sleep. A new day has begun. The evidence they sent had results. It completely coincides with the medicine in the hospital. Ji-young immediately ordered assistant to get an arrest warrant for the hospital director. Meanwhile, at Ko-won's office, suddenly received an anonymous letter. Someone had knowing Mi Jin's secret. He immediately destroyed that letter to protect her safety. That night, when Mi Jin returned home, she was surprised to see Ji-young waiting for her at the gate. He wanted to ask clearly about the kiss that night, but Ji-young accidentally said he didn't misunderstand anything. This made Mi Jin feel angry and went straight into the house. After Ji-young left, Ko-won arrived. He worried that someone knows Mi Jin's secret. He wants her to quit her job at the prosecutor's office. He is willing to pay her a high salary. Mi Jin is upset when he pity her. Ko-won gradually becomes impatient. This was the first time he knew what it was like to love someone. At this moment, Ji-young returned. He was dumbfounded when he saw Ko-won confessing love to Mi Jin. The next day at the prosecutor's office, Mi Jin was restless when Ji-young still hadn't come to work. The assistant said Ji-young took the day off because he was sick. Mi Jin worriedly asked if he was okay. She was afraid that Ji-young, who was waiting for her last night, had been caught in the rain. As for Ko-won last night, he was rejected by Mi Jin because she now had someone else in her heart. In the afternoon, after work, Mi Jin was going to go to the shop to buy him a bowl of porridge, but she met assistant, so she quickly left before being discovered. When she returned home, her mother was cooking porridge. Mi Jin took advantage of the fact that the whole family was asleep in the middle of the night and secretly took all the porridge that her mother cooked and brought it to Ji-young's house. She was still wondering whether she should go to Ji-young's house or not. When assistant appeared, he was surprised to see that Mi Jin was also here. He realized that he was disrupting the young couple. So after ringing the bell, he quickly left. Ji-young opened the door and saw Mi Jin standing holding a bowl of porridge. Seeing him so tired, she quickly helped him to his room. Ji-young's refrigerator didn't have anything edible, so Mi Jin warmed up porridge and soup for him. Seeing her thoughtfully taking care of him like that, Ji-young suddenly remembered the image of his late mother. She used to cook delicious food for him to eat. At the same time, at Mi Jin's house, the stealing food was discovered. Mom thought someone had broken into the house, but Dad laughed and said the food was for his future son-in-law. He saw Mi Jin packing boxes of food to bring to Ji-young's house. As soon as she was about to return home, Ji-young held her hand. He told stories about his childhood, how every day he stayed at home and waited for his mother until late at night. However, on the first snowy day of the season, his mother never returned. He moved to this countryside as to turn over the case in the past. Right after that, he fell asleep. When he woke up, Mi-jin had come home. Seeing the food prepared on the table, Ji-young slowly enjoyed it deliciously. A new day began again. Right away, Ko-won brought coffee to Mi-jin early in the morning. As soon as saw him, Mi-jin immediately hid in a corner. Mi-jin still felt guilty for rejecting his love. The curious assistant approached and asked Ji-young if he knew about Ko-won having a crush. Ji-young remembered the night standing in the rain at Mi-jin's house, and the assistant thought about the scene of a 50-year-old aunt in love with a young man. Ji-young was angry and left the office. He contacted the police who were monitoring at the hospital. Director Baek had not left the office. Then Ji-young went to check the car parked at Mi-jin's house. It is a derelict car. Every day it follows Mi-jin. This black car is Director Baek's Jr. He hired someone to follow Mi-jin every day. Director Baek suspected the true identity of Mi-jin. The fact that Lin Sun came back made him a little worried. Meanwhile, Ji-young was wandering in front of Mi-jin's house when suddenly he heard a scream coming from inside the house. He quickly ran away. When he went to check, he saw Mi-jin's father being beaten. As soon as her mother saw her son-in-law, her attitude changed. As soon as Mi-jin returned home, she was surprised to see Ji-young was also here. Her family is also holding a grand party to welcome her future son-in-law. During the meal, the mother kept mentioning the food being stolen. This made Mi-jin choke. Ji-young seemed to understand the origin of the food she brought. Coincidentally, today is also the birthday of Aunt Lim's son. To stop father from telling the story about the aunt, the best friend kept changing the subject. They couldn't let Ji-young discover the secret. After the party ended, Mi-jin sent him off for a while. She asked why he came here. Ji-young shyly said he just happened to pass by. Mi-jin confided that her aunt had disappeared 20 years ago. Every day she hoped she would come back. Suddenly Ji-young told her that her father knew that she had been cheated of money. The police sent an investigation paper home, but he hid it because he didn't want his wife to make a big deal out of it. Every time she saw her father care about her like that, it made Mi-jin burst into tears. The next day, they received a search warrant for the hospital. The assistant and Mi-jin immediately set out. They proudly led the control team to confiscate all the records at the hospital. The assistant, using his instincts, found Director Baek's secret compartment, but the files inside were taken away by this guy. At the same time, the prosecutor's office, Ko-won was looking for, who sent the anonymous letter. But the room he was on duty in was the camera's blind spot, so he couldn't detect who sent the letter. The fact that Director Baek didn't appear at the hospital was reported to Ji-young by the police. It seems like he already knew that he was being followed. Ji-young rushed to the superior's room to ask for an arrest warrant. However, the superior did not want trouble, so he asked him to bring evidence here. Ji-young was left angrily, but was stopped by Ko-won. He wanted to ask Mi-jin if something was wrong because she didn't answer the phone. Ji-young worriedly checked the location again. He was surprised that Mi-jin was at the hospital. He immediately ran to the hospital to search. However, she was taken away by the doctor. He calmly pushed the patient past Ji-young. At the same time, the surveillance car in front of Mi-jin's house also disappeared. Ji-young was scared as he had put her in danger. After a long coma, Mi-jin finally woke up. She was scared when in front of her was the hospital director. He said he had been waiting for her to appear for more than 20 years. 20 years ago, he hired people to investigate his wife's disappearance. The detective, based on the information provided by Director Baek, was able to track down the director's wife, who often visited the motel. And at the same time, this guy took photos of his wife with her lover. The detective said that maybe the lover would take advantage and take her money. So Director Baek went to the bank to ask Mi-jin's aunt for help. He wanted Mi-jin's aunt to notify him when someone withdrew money. But only not long after the police discovered that Director Baek's wife was dead, they immediately arrested Director Baek to the station for questioning. He was suspected of being the one who murdered his wife. But because the evidence for the crime was not enough, the police let him go. As soon as he was released, the director called Mi-jin's aunt to ask. However, after he gave his wife's passbook to Aunt Mi-jin, the woman had resigned at the bank. He suspected that Mi-jin's aunt was the murderer of his wife. So for 20 years, he continuously searched for that woman's whereabouts. Until now, he had just caught this woman. He was mad in front of the woman who ruined his life. Mi-jin repeatedly explained that she was not the murderer, but Director Baek did not care. In order to catch her, he asked someone to attack Mi-jin, but the attack was failed, so he applied to volunteer at the prosecutor's office. Now she is in his hands. Mi-jin tried to reassure herself. It was late afternoon when she was arrested. The sun was probably about to set now. Just as Director Baek was about to kill her, Mi-jin begged him to give her more more time, she will prove to him who she really is. The sun started to darken, and the time the director gave Mi-jin was over. He coldly took the needle and approached her. At the same time, Ji-eung at the top discovered that her things had been dropped. He was sure that the murderer had not taken her out of here. His mind suddenly remembered the basement of the hospital. Ji-eung quickly went downstairs to check. As soon as Director Baek was about to stab Mi-jin when he appeared, Ji-eung got angry and rushed over to knock down Director Baek. Right when he pulled out the needle to stab him, Ji-eung knocked down Director Baek. He was about to untie her when Director Baek sneakily attacked him. Ji-eung got mad and punched in the face of this man. Right when he was about to take down prey, Mi-jin begged him to stop. Right after that, Mi-jin was taken to the ambulance. Looking at the wounds on her body made Ji-eung feel a sharp pain. Suddenly, Mi-jin told him not to call her parents. Even though she was seriously injured, she was still worried about him. After she fully recovered, Ji-eung graciously drove her home. Mi-jin was worried that if she became a witness, her secret would be exposed. She said she doesn't think Director Baek is the murderer. The next day, a lot of related documents were delivered to the prosecutor's office. As usual, Ko-won still brought coffee to Mi-jin. The assistant said it seemed like Ko-won and the 50-year-old aunt had broken up. Ji-eung was bewildered, remembering what the assistant had told him before. At this moment, the 50-year-old aunt appeared. Mi-jin was angry when someone said she and Ko-won were dating. That night, Ji-eung suddenly called Mi-jin. He bought a lot of supplements to visit her. Mi-jin was very happy when he came here himself. All that night she had nightmares, so she couldn't sleep. She is scared every time she sees Director Baek. A new day begins. Mi-jin still remembers the words Director Baek said. The door to the room opened. Ji-eung walked in dejectedly when the Director Baek refused to confess. Mi-jin seriously said that Director Baek was not the murderer. Mi-jin begged him to let her meet Director Baek. Immediately after that, she was taken to the interrogation room. Director Baek, just seeing that she was smiling, Mi-jin asked if there was something he couldn't say. The assistant was surprised when Mi-jin turned off the mic. The conversation was now just two people. She asked him if he believed her. Actually, she is not Aunt Lim's son, to prove her own words. Mi-jin showed a video of her body changing. Director Baek got mad thinking she was tricking him. How can two people be one? Mi-jin lifted her hair to reveal the wound on her head. When she was young, he was the one who healed her. Mi-jin said she was cursed, so she borrowed her aunt's identity. Perhaps the person who killed her was also the murderer of his wife. The director started to panic. Mi-jin begged him to help her. They didn't have much time left. After returning to the prison, Director Baek began to think about what Mi-jin said. In his hand, he had evidence to prove that what Mi-jin said was true. Meanwhile, Mi-jin's arrest had reached her best friend's ears. She burst into tears when Mi-jin hid such an important matter from her. Looking at her friend's tears touched Mi-jin. After her best friend regained composure, Mi-jin said, "It seemed like the transformation time was interrupted. The time she turned into an old woman was increasing." Mi-jin worried that she would never be able to change back to this appearance. Her best friend speculates that she can lift the curse if catches the culprit. The fact that the hospital director is not the culprit makes Mi-jin worried. She can't think of anyone who is targeting her. Today, already past 6 p.m., and her body still hasn't changed. So Mi-jin covered her head and went into the police station. As soon as she returned to her youthful appearance, Mi-jin began to act. The police informed Ji-eung that she wanted to meet Director Baek. After driving to the police station, he immediately grabbed her hand and pulled her out of the station. Mi-jin was annoyed and pulled hand away. She didn't want to hide anymore, which made Ji-eung got angry. He said he would catch the culprit, but Mi-jin couldn't wait any longer. He gently hugged her to comfort her. He would never let her be in danger again. Then, Ji-eung brought her home. Now they were a couple. Mi-jin quickly covered his mouth before his parents knew. She wanted him to wait until the curse was lifted. Mi-jin did not expect her father to hear everything, especially the story of the two kissing. She signaled her father to keep it a secret from her mother. The next day at the prosecutor's office, the assistant was surprised to see Ji-eung and her 50-year-old aunt sitting and smiling. They looked like they were in love. Mi-jin happily went to get documents when she met Ko-won. For the past few days, she had been avoiding meeting him. Ko-won was curious that Mi-jin kept avoiding him. She quickly pulled Ko-won outside. She said she already liked someone else. Ko-won had long realized her feelings for the prosecutor. His confession was just to express his feelings, so he not wanting Mi-jin to feel uncomfortable every time she saw him. That night, when Mi-jin returned home, she realized she had left her phone in the office, and now, Ji-eung and her assistant were working overtime. At this moment, her best friend called, because it was the phone of the aunts forgot. Ji-eung listened to it. Mi-jin was afraid that they would discover her second identity, so she rushed to the office to get it. She did not expect that Ji-eung would return after eating. She quickly hid under the table to avoid being discovered. But with the intuition of a skilled prosecutor, Ji-eung felt something was wrong. He was about to go check when a phone call came in. While he was on the phone, Mi-jin ran away. Ji-young realized someone was hiding from him, so he immediately chased after. He was surprised when Mi-jin came here. She said she came here because she wanted to meet him. Ji-young moved to show her around the office. Mi-jin happily remembered the first time she got the job. At this moment, the assistant came in. He was surprised when she saw Mi-jin here. Not only that, she also knew the location of the cups and plates in the room, as if she had worked here for a long time. After finishing dessert, Ji-young sent his lover go home, and he still left to continue to process the pile of documents piled up like a mountain. The next day, Director Baek continued to be interrogated. Ji-young asked him what he did with the medicine he embezzled. However, Director Baek did not want to say anything. He asked the prosecutor to let him meet Mi-jin again. Director Baek accepted her true identity. He was curious what she would do to catch the perpetrator. Mi-jin said she smelled a strange scent. If necessary, she would reveal her identity to seduce the perpetrator. Thanks to the evidence that Director Baek provided, the police were able to arrest the thugs at the nightclub. The hospital director's arrest caused a huge stir in public opinion. Even the superiors were reprimanded by the hospital director. The report results also showed that Director Baek was not the murderer. On the day the victim was murdered, the hospital director was going for treatment. In order to solve the case quickly, the superiors ordered Ji-young to collaborate with juniors, who are all the best prosecutors in here. Watching her lover being flirted with by her rival made Mi-jin uncomfortable. She tried to stop them. That night when she returned home, Mi-jin was upset when her boyfriend had to stay up all night working with juniors. Now the office only has 2 people alone together. Suddenly the junior said that after solving the case, he will return to Seoul, not knowing if he wants to go with him. But Ji-young now has a reason to stay here. After work, Ji-young drove to see Mi-jin. She was happy that he still had time for her. Ji-young asked her to go out on the weekend, but Mi-jin only wanted to meet in the evening. This made Ji-young a little curious. The next day when he came to the office, he asked the 50-year-old aunt if she knew what Mi-jin was doing. Mi-jin tried to explain that his girlfriend was probably busy. Time passed. The appointment date come. The assistant had nothing to do, so he went to Ji-young's house. He guessed that Mi-jin was also at her best friend's house, so he went up to say hello. However, Mi-jin hid in the room, ignoring Ji-young, who was eagerly waiting. As a result, the assistant sat down to eat a delicious meal with the best friend. In fact, Ji-young himself suspected Mi-jin's true identity. Could it be that the 50-year-old aunt and Mi-jin are the same person? To investigate the secret that his lover hid, Ji-young contacted the police to show him the security camera. Every day, the 50-year-old aunt would ride her bike out of Mi-jin's house. However, he couldn't see his girlfriend anywhere. The next day, the junior went to the prosecutor again. The juniors invited him to drink coffee to discuss work. The juniors discovered that Director Baek was in contact with a woman. More importantly, this person had been missing for 20 years. At the same time, Mi-jin discovered that Ko-won was secretly following the cleaning lady. It turned out that she was the one who sent the letter denouncing Mi-jin's identity. She got angry when someone knew her identity. To find out the truth, Mi-jin took the letter to the cleaner, but she didn't know anything. She said her former colleague asked her to send it. After knowing the identity of the person behind it, Mi-jin went to the address provided, but the sender did not know who Mi-jin was. The woman's target was Nao Ke-hui. Mi-jin was surprised when Nao Ke-hui, who was an impersonator, actually a person applying for the job as someone else, but for unknown reasons the two changed their identities. To confirm this, Mi-jin asked assistant to investigate Nao Ke-hui's background. That night, Ji-young asked her out for dinner. Mi-jin said that only 2 people knew about their relationship. That was her best friend and the 50-year-old aunt. All that night she kept thinking about what he said. In the end, she wanted to do. She flipped through the books and then fell asleep on the table. Early in the morning, Ji-young arrived at her door. The bell accidentally woke Mi-jin up from a deep sleep. Her parents happily welcomed their son-in-law in the future. Only Mi-jin still does not know the danger that is approaching. Ji-young curiously looks at the paper taped to the front of her lover's room. Mi-jin has forbidden anyone from entering her room in the morning. To clarify the matter, Ji-young asked her parents if they knew who Lim Sun was. When they heard this name, their faces became sad. Lim Sun is Mi-jin's mother's younger sister. She has been missing for more than 20 years. To break this awkward atmosphere, her father went into the room and called Mi-jin to wake up. She panicked when he appeared here. As soon as she ran out to the balcony, her parents broke the door in. They were angry, chasing after the strange woman. Made Ji-young bewildered. They immediately split up to search for the strange woman. After receiving the news, the police also appeared. They immediately rounded up and arrested Mi-jin. Back at the station, the mother frantically took off her daughter's coat. Mi-jin got angry and was about to tell the truth when the prosecutor came in. He was surprised to see the 50-year-old aunt here. Everyone stood there looking at each other in bewilderment, not understanding what's going on. Because he was an acquaintance, he sponsored her to go out. Ji-young was angry that she had lied to him. Why did she sneak into Mi-jin's house? She sadly shook her head, unable to answer. Mi-jin was so tired, she no longer wanted to live in a situation of deceiving everyone anymore. The only person who knew her identity was her her best friend. Both of them hugged and cried like children. That night, Ji-young could not understanding this. He wanted to ask Mi-jin but did not dare to listen to the answer. When Ji-young returned home, he was surprised to see Mi-jin's mother waiting for him. In the morning, she realized that he knew this 50-year-old woman. So when she heard the name Lim Sun, she burst into tears thinking it was her sister. Everyone in the family thought it was the missing aunt. Mi-jin was put in an awkward situation. She couldn't say everyone the truth, so she decided to write a resignation letter. For the first time in her life, she had a job to pursue, but she had to say goodbye to it so soon like that. The sun began to rise. Mi-jin slowly walked out and met the director's junior. He gave her a file. When Mi-jin opened it, she realized that this was a familiar scent. She had smelled it in her car of he murderer. Inside the document was the poppy flower. It was also the scent she smelled. At the same time, the assistant's office investigated the lady's background. She and the customer who bought the medicine were one person. He was about to call Mi-jin when she came in, followed by Ji-young. He looked at the resignation letter in her hand and signaled to go out to talk. He didn't want to hear her apologize anymore. In the end, what relationship did she have with Mi-jin? But she couldn't tell the truth. Mi-jin immediately packed her things and left here. Before leaving, assistant stopped her. He checked and identified Nao Ke-hui as the suspect. But today Nao Ke-hui did not go to work. She is the one who murdered Director Baek's wife. Then she stole all the property and went to the bank to withdraw money. Aunt of Mi-jin discovered her, but the director did not answer the phone. When she returned, the perpetrator had already left. That night, on the way back home, the aunt was followed by the perpetrator. Then, the aunt was attacked by the murderer. By chance, Ji-young's mother came home from work. She was scared and saw the murderer dragging the victim's body. While running away, Ji-young's mother accidentally knocked over the trash can. This woman coldly went to check and saw that the bag had been dropped. Inside was the address of the restaurant where Ji-young's mother worked. Coincidentally, she also worked there. At the same time, Mi-jin's father came to see the murderer before he asked her to look for his sister. At this moment, someone called the father's phone. She saw the background photo of his daughter. Mi-jin was the witness who saw her. Hui coldly asked if anyone knew you was here to look for me. The father honestly said no one knew. As soon as she confirmed there was no one outside, she locked the door. Her face gradually taking on the image of cold-hearted devil. It was she who killed the candidate to take the other person's place. A crippled old man happened to pass by and saw her. To cover up the clues, she murdered him, while Mi-jin broke the lock closet. She was stunned when she saw poppies and a dose of anesthetic. This was evidence that Nao Ke-hui was the murderer. She immediately took out her phone and called Ji-young. He immediately ordered arrest, hold urgently. Suddenly a message appeared. Her father had been captured by a murderer. This woman threatened Mi-jin to come meet. If the police showed up, her father would die. Mi-jin got mad when her father was captured. She hurriedly ran to the meeting place. The sun had begun to set. Mi-jin immediately returned to her old form. She ran along the field to the meeting place. This woman was hiding in the dark watching. Just if the murder discovered the police, her father would die. Mi-jin followed the location to a warehouse. As soon as she bent down to pick up the phone, the perpetrator rushed to attack her. Only then did her best friend receive Mi-jin's message. She was worried when she saw Mi-jin telling her to call the police, but she didn't have Ji-young's number, so she called the assistant. When heard Mi-jin's problem, the assistant told Ji-young. He checked the location and discovered that she was behind the mountain. That's where Mi-jin saw the perpetrator. Ji-young asked the police for emergency reinforcements, and he would drive there first. In the end, Mi-jin also having regained consciousness, she angrily asked where my father was. The perpetrator still calmly ate dinner despite her screaming. The real target of this woman was Mi-jin. This woman had prepared a lot of drugs and placed them on the table. While this woman wasn't paying attention, Mi-jin pulled out a knife from her pocket and cut the rope. At this moment, this woman turned back and promised to make Mi-jin the most painful. Just as this woman was about to stab, Mi-jin accidentally dropped the needle. Mi-jin quickly used her foot to hide it. This woman looked drunk and came back to get another one. At this time, the rope was also cut. Mi-jin quickly took the needle and threw it away and ran away from here. Angrily grabbed an axe to chase after. The two chased each other in the dark forest. Suddenly, Mi-jin slipped and rolled down the slope. She held her breath waiting for the perpetrator to pass. Just as Nao Ke-hui left, Mi-jin immediately ran in the opposite direction. Before this woman could run far, this one discovered the noise. The angry murderer took an axe and slashed Mi-jin's shirt. Nao Ke-hui screamed loudly when was teased. In the darkness, Mi-jin was silently observing. The hunter had now turned into prey. Mi-jin got mad and rushed forward to stab her, but she was stopped by Nao Ke-hui. Right when Nao Ke-hui pressed Mi-jin to the ground, she took a rock to the perpetrator's head. The perpetrator screamed in pain. Nao Ke-hui was about to strike when suddenly hallucination appeared. Presently, Nao Ke-hui was scared when she saw Aunt Aunt Mi-jin's figure. Why was she here? Wasn't she already dead? While Na Ok-hui's mind was not awake, Mi-jin rushed in and injected medicine into her body. Meanwhile, Ji-young had arrived at the abandoned warehouse. He was scared to see a long blood stain on the ground. Ji-young quickly ran to search around. The police had now discovered Mi-jin's father locked up. Ji-young went to the murderer's house to check. Suddenly, he discovered a small path behind the mountain. He quickly ran to the room on the mountain to check. There was also Mi-jin's phone inside, proving that they were not long after leaving here. Ji-young observed that the glass door was broken. He ran with all his might in that direction to find his girlfriend. Ji-young shouted her name in desperation. Suddenly, he heard a loud noise. Ji-young. He quickly ran to check but saw no one. Suddenly, he saw a cat. It led him to Mi-jin's place. The sun was about to rise. Mi-jin in a tired look was walking home step by step. As soon as she fainted, Ji-young ran to hug Mi-jin, but in front of him was a 50-year-old aunt. She was then taken care of by doctors. After digging, the police discovered many bodies buried around the house. Ji-young was dumbfounded when he saw his mother's ring. After a long search, he finally found his mother. Ji-young cried like a child. Memories of his mother gradually turned back in his mind. Mi-jin finally woke up. Her best friend burst into tears when she was still safe. Mi-jin worriedly asked if her father was okay. Her best friend said her father was fine. Mi-jin sobbed when remembering her aunt. The sky began to turn dark. Mi-jin returned to her previous appearance. She ran to hug her father. At this time, the police called to say that they had found the body of Aunt Lim's son. The real perpetrator was also arrested soon after. This case caused a big stir. After more than 20 years, the perpetrator was finally arrested. Ji-young personally interrogated the perpetrator. He had many things to ask her. The perpetrator laughed when Ji-young appeared to be knowledgeable. After committing the crime, she always followed Ji-young's mother. While his mother was waiting for the police, the murderer brutally murdered her. Before died, the mother kept calling his name. Ji-young crazy when this woman was so cruel, but reason prevented him from killing the person sitting in front of him. At the same time, Mi-jin went to see Director Baek. The murderer of his wife was arrested. Director Baek thanked her because she kept her promise. He was finally able to let go of the burden in his heart. Mi-jin then also became a witness of the case. The denunciation letter was a clue to investigate the real culprit. Now the important thing is to find a way to break the curse. Mi-jin still hasn't dared to meet Ji-young once. Maybe she has to end it with Ji-young. Her best friend comforts her to follow her heart. Mi-jin quietly read the messages he sent. Ji-young was always silently waiting for her to return. That night, when returning home, Mi-jin suddenly saw her boyfriend waiting for her at the gate. She mustered up the courage to approach on his side. She was about to tell the truth, but Ji-young interrupted. The day he ran to find her, he saw her transformed into a 50-year-old aunt. Until now, he still couldn't believe his eyes. Mi-jin explained that she couldn't give up that job. She was too scared when he knew the truth. Mi-jin didn't want to burden him, so she proposed to break up. Ji-young was dumbfounded when he heard what she said. He couldn't hold on to the girl he loved. As soon as Mi-jin entered the house, he stood outside all night. A new day began again. Mi-jin decided to tell her parents the whole truth. Seeing her mother keep hoping to find her sister, Mi-jin couldn't help but feel sad. She put on a 50-year-old appearance to meet her mother. Suddenly, the sky turned dark. Mi-jin has returned to her original appearance. Her parents were stunned when they saw their daughter transformed. Mi-jin sobbed when she saw her mother always looking for her sister. Let's let her go now. They are still shocked that Mi-jin was transformed. Their daughter has suffered enough all this time. Today is also the day of trial for Director Baek because he is a person who has contributed to the community many years along with the victim's request for leniency. He was only sentenced to 3 years in prison. Ji-young waited outside the court. He was sad when Mi-jin could not come. Soon the trial of the perpetrator will be held. Mi-jin still hasn't found a way to break the curse. Every day she worries that she might die. To be on the safe side, she has an insurance contract ready, and at the same time, she does charity. Addicted to the veterinary clinic, every evening she would go out with her parents. Mi-jin still had the dream of doing what she liked. Her mother was also used to her daughter being transformed every morning. She gently went into the room to call the daughter woke up, saw her sleeping on the table next to her. There was a list of things she wanted to do that made her mother feel sad. She immediately got dressed and dragged Mi-jin to find a magician, but she had already tried this method. Mi-jin decided to live with this transformed body to make daughter happier. Her mother called her daughter best friend to pick Mi-jin up to go out. When arrived at the fried chicken shop, Mi-jin remembered the time she went on a mission with Ji-young. Time just flew by. It's been a long time since she contacted Ji-young. Every night, Ji-young would wait in front of the gate wanting to meet her. Her parents saw Ji-young working so hard and felt a little pity. Mi-jin's mother told Min-jin's father to give food to Ji-young. As soon as Ji-young was about to leave, Mi-jin's father tried to hold him back. Mi-jin was about to return home. Ji-young was bewildered when Mi-jin's father kept forcing him to exercise. At this moment, Mi-jin also came home. However, Ji-young had already gotten in the car to leave. The father was upset when his daughter came home late. Mi-jin didn't understand why the father was angry. The next day at the prosecutor's office, the assistant was looking to buy a wedding ring online. Not knowing that he was being tricked by a scammer. Right when the assistant was about to transfer money, Ji-young appeared to catch the scammer. Even though was an investigator, the assistant was always being scammed. To help him, Ji-young gave him a gift voucher, but when he learned that this was a farewell gift, the assistant got angry. "Why did you leave me without warning?" That night while sleeping, Mi-jin saw her deceased aunt, the aunt saying she had to go. Mi-jin felt a bit empty inside. She had helped her aunt fulfill her wish. Now she wanted Mi-jin to live for herself. The two said goodbye to each other in tears before leaving. Aunt disappeared. A new day began. Mi-jin woke up and waited for the moment to change, but the clock hands had stopped spinning. Today was the day Ji-young moved to Seoul. He had decided to leave here. Meanwhile, at the trial of the perpetrator, Mi-jin coldly opened the door and entered. She was the only witness of the case. Thanks to her testimony, the perpetrator had to pay a suitable price. As soon as the trial ended, Mi-jin ran to the prosecutor's office. She wanted to see Ji-young's face one last time before he left. Mi-jin had to get used to her new life. She continued studying for the 9th civil service exam. Even though her mother objected, this was her dream. Everyone in the family will support her to the fullest. She doesn't know that outside the gate, Ji-young is waiting for her. He heard laughter in the cozy little house, so he quietly left. When she went out, he accidentally saw the gift basket he left behind. It was the cactus she gave him. 6 long months have passed. Ji-young has gotten used to her new life. Today is the day the Seoul prosecutor's office recruited a new investigator. Among them there is someone who stands out above all, a girl who can handle all the tasks. That girl accidentally walked to Ji-young's table. He was surprised to see Mi-jin appear here. However, Mi-jin acted like she didn't know him. To pull her closer to him, Ji-young asked Mi-jin to move into his room, ignoring the flirting from other male colleagues. Mi-jin decided not to fall in love with a colleague. This made Ji-young feel worried. Suddenly, Ji-young's hand was stabbed into a cactus. Watching him scream loudly in pain scared, Mi-jin attentively took care of the wound for him. Ji-young mustered up the courage to confess his love to her. He went to give Mi-jin the most passionate kiss. The two finally became a couple. The movie ends. Thank you for watching our video. Hope that these shares have helped you gain more perspective on the movie. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to update the latest videos. Thank you, and see you again.